Water was and still is important to the Hawaiians.
Vai is the word for fresh water in Hawaiian, and then vai vai means wealth. And the word for laws is kanawai. The word kanawai would suggest that regulating or creating laws to determine how water is used suggests the significance of water.
Everyone had the right to use water, and there has always been someone who is responsible for the use of water.
Changing economical and political conditions affected who is responsible for preserving water rights. In 1916, the Waiahole Ditch was completed in order to divert water to leeward and central areas of Oahu for sugar plantations. Windward farmers and residents lost their right to use the stream water as they used to. Changes in the government, an amendment to the Constitution, and farmers who challenged the law in court all helped to restore these rights.
The earliest inhabitants, Anuhea, gained their water supply from freshwater springs, lakes, rivers, streams, and shallow wells. Taro was a main part of their diet. In order to have taro, the people had to work together and get the water they needed.
Wherever they could, they grew. There were so many streams in Hawaii, they grew wetland taro. When they needed to fix the when they needed to fix the dam or work on the awai, then everybody would have to come together. Everybody who's using water would all have to help in the work.
The waterways were designed to flow from the mountain into the lo'is, then back out to the river so other people further down the river can use the water. Strict kapua laws were enforced in order to preserve and protect the water.
It was very important that the water not be polluted, and so they had special places for washing clothes, and for bathing, and for taking drinking water. The way they diverted the water from the stream into the lo'i was through Hawaii. And where that dam was, they would build up a rock dam to make the water level rise up and go into the Hawaii. And so nobody messed around with that water. If they broke the Hawaii, they took their body and killed them and stuffed them into the Hawaii.
No one could own water, but the king or ali'i had the right to allocate the water. The king or ali'i had an agent who would distribute the water. This agent was the konohiki. The konohiki was responsible for making sure water was used wisely. The konohiki lived in the ahu pua'a and knew everyone and how they used water.
When Captain James Cook arrived in Hawaii in 1778, Hawaii was introduced to Western trading. Sandalwood and then whaling were soon the main economic interests for Hawaii, and then sugar was introduced. Hawaii has the basic natural resources for growing sugarcane: land, sun, and water. Water is the main key ingredient. To make 1 pound of sugar, it took 500 gallons of water. In the 1830s, the first big plantation was started on Kauai. By 1884, there were 90 plantations. During this time, the government was also changing. The monarchy agreed to let the water be used for the plantations for increasing Hawaii's economy. Acts were passed which allowed people to own the water that was on their land. King Kamehameha IV had water commissions in each region, which were like the konohiki. Then King Kalakaua combined all of the commissions, one for each area. The monarchy was overthrown, and in 1898, the territorial government began, and the governor was appointed by the United States. In the territorial government, the court judges acted as water commissioners. When it came to water, the courts usually sided with the plantation owner. The Oahu Sugar Company started in 1897 and had plantations in Ewa, which used water pumped from the ground. In order to plant mauka lands, they looked for a surface water source because pumping water from the ground was too costly. The Ko'olau water was closest.
The construction of Waiahole Ditch started in 1913 and was completed in 1916, built by Oahu Sugar Company, to transport water from the windward side of Oahu to the leeward side. Waiahole Ditch delivered an average of 30 million gallons a day. The Waiahole Ditch drew water from 4 main rivers: Waiahole, Waikane, Kahana, and Waianu. The water was carried through a rough 25 miles through the Waiawa Plain.
The farmers and residents on the windward side were affected by the Waiahole Ditch. When the water was taken by the ditch, the farmers had less water for their taro and other crops to grow. The stream health was also affected. The native species declined, watersheds were affected, and wetlands water declined. There wasn't enough water for traditional practices. Native species, streams, and a healthy ecosystem.
Water is essential for all life. Fresh water is very important for the oceans. And it's important because we have oceans because all water in the oceans came from fresh water. So they fill the oceans, but especially here in Hawaii, the fresh water, as it runs into the ocean in this tropical area, it brings what we call nutrients.
In 1959, Hawaii became a state. The governor was now voted by the people and judges were appointed by the governor. In McBride versus Robinson in 1973, the court decided that a plantation owner could not own the river's water and the surplus belonged to the state. The 1978 Hawaii Constitutional Convention brought more changes. An amendment in the 1978 Hawaii State Constitution states, "All public natural resources are held in trust by the state for the benefit of the people." The Constitution also said there was to be a water code and a water commission. The 1987 Water Code says, "Adequate provision shall be made for the protection of fish and wildlife, the main chance of proper ecological balance and scenic beauty, and the preservation and enhancement of waters of the state for municipal uses, public recreation, public water supply, agriculture, and navigation. Such objectives are declared to be in public interest."
In modern times, the state water code reinforced the native rights. It said we have first right to the water. Anyway, basically, they recognized that the Kanaka had first right to the water. They're our traditional practices, which means the o'opu, the hihivai, all of the different native species that live in the water. They had first right to the water. Unless it could be proved that that water was needed to sustain life somewhere else.
That the people who have responsibility to manage the water are not just calling balls and strikes like a batter, in a baseball game. That there's actually an affirmative duty of this commission and these commission members to protect the water. And that duty is beyond just the rules in the water code. It is a duty like a trustee or guardian.
Farmers were active in making sure the law was being followed. In Rapun versus Board of Water Supply, filed in 1976, a group of farmers challenged the right of Board of Water Supply to pump water from the ground on the windward side to take to the leeward side. The Hawaii Supreme Court ruled in favor of farmers and said that there had to be enough water for traditional Hawaiian practices using water, including taro farming. In 1993, Oahu Sugar Company announced it would be shut down in 1995. Several groups petitioned for use of the water.
1993, Oahu Sugar said they were going to go out of business. And so we said, since you're going out of business, give us back the water that you stole.
The Waihole contested case hearing started in 1995 and was decided in 2000.
There was a court case called the Waihole Contested Case Hearing, and that was the first time that a public group sued the state and held them accountable for their public trust of water.
The Water Commission allocated the water in the ditch to both the windward and leeward sides. There are still disagreements over the rights to use this water.
It was the decision by the commission saying you must restore the water, because they said it turns out that it's not as much water is needed in the central wall to grow the food, and it turned out there was a lot of extra water that wasn't needed. It went up to the Hawaii Supreme Court, back to the commission, went up and down 2 or 3 times before all the details got worked out. But it was the commission's decision and then the Supreme Court decision that was the order by which this is now run.
The responsibilities over water have changed through time. The Waihole Ditch made a big impact in how water rights developed in Hawaii.
Farmers and other residents worked hard to restore Hawaii's natural resources. It's important to island life that we all take care of our water resources.